In this episode, we move from simply collecting and retaining logs to making them truly useful by normalizing them for correlation, because raw logs scattered across accounts and regions rarely tell a clear story on their own. Cloud environments generate events in different formats, with different field names, timestamp styles, and structural layouts, and beginners often assume that once logs are centralized, analysis becomes easy. In reality, inconsistent formats can make even simple investigation questions surprisingly difficult to answer. Normalization is the process of transforming diverse log data into a consistent structure so that events can be compared, searched, and correlated efficiently. When logs are normalized, patterns that were previously hidden across services and regions begin to surface. This step turns logging from passive record keeping into active detection capability. Without normalization, you may have all the evidence you need, but struggle to assemble it into a coherent narrative. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Cloud providers and services often use their own schemas for logging, even within the same platform. One service may record the source IP address under one field name, while another uses a different label entirely. Timestamps might appear in slightly different formats or time zones, and identity references may not be consistently structured. Investigation questions frequently depend on aligning these details across multiple sources. For example, if you want to trace activity associated with a single identity across accounts and regions, inconsistent formatting can slow down or distort analysis. Beginners sometimes underestimate how much time is lost simply interpreting log structure rather than investigating behavior. Normalization addresses this by mapping diverse formats into a common structure with standardized field names and time representations. Once aligned, logs from multiple services can be analyzed side by side without manual translation. Correlation is the next step that becomes possible after normalization. Correlation involves linking related events together to reveal sequences, dependencies, or anomalies that would not be obvious when viewing events individually. Investigation questions often require understanding how a login event connects to a configuration change and then to a data access event. If those logs reside in different accounts or regions and follow different schemas, the connections may remain invisible. Normalized logs allow correlation engines or analysts to identify relationships based on shared attributes such as identity, IP address, resource identifier, or timestamp proximity. Beginners should recognize that most incidents involve chains of actions rather than single isolated events. Correlation transforms fragmented evidence into a timeline that reflects actual behavior. Multi-account and multi-region environments amplify the need for normalization because activity is distributed across geographic and organizational boundaries. A user may authenticate in one region, create a resource in another, and access data in a third. Investigation questions that span these boundaries demand consistent identifiers and timestamp alignment. Without normalization, slight differences in time zone or naming conventions can create confusion about sequence and scope. Beginners should appreciate that cloud scale introduces complexity that manual interpretation cannot handle effectively. Standardized logs provide the foundation for cross-region visibility and unified analysis. They enable security teams to see the environment as a whole rather than as disconnected islands of activity. Time synchronization plays a particularly critical role in normalization. Logs generated in different regions may use different time references or precision levels. Investigation questions that rely on exact sequencing require precise alignment of timestamps. Even small discrepancies can obscure whether one action preceded another or occurred concurrently. Normalization includes converting timestamps into a consistent format and time zone so that event ordering is accurate. Beginners should understand that temporal accuracy is essential for credible investigation. Without synchronized time data, building reliable timelines becomes difficult and potentially misleading. Normalization also enhances anomaly detection by establishing consistent baselines. When logs share common structure and fields, Statistical analysis can identify deviations more effectively. Investigation questions about unusual behavior often rely on comparing current activity to historical norms. If fields are inconsistent, automated systems may fail to recognize patterns or generate false positives. Beginners should see normalization as enabling intelligent monitoring rather than merely organizing data. Structured consistency allows patterns of excessive privilege use, abnormal network connections, or unexpected data transfers to stand out more clearly. Field enrichment can complement normalization by adding contextual information to log entries. For example, an IP address can be enriched with geographic or organizational metadata, and a resource identifier can be mapped to a specific business unit. Investigation questions often require understanding context beyond raw event data. Enrichment ensures that correlated events carry meaningful information that supports rapid interpretation. Beginners should understand that normalization is not limited to formatting. It also includes enhancing logs so that they are easier to interpret during investigation. Context reduces ambiguity and speeds response. Another advantage of normalization is improved search efficiency. Investigation questions often begin with specific criteria, such as all actions taken by a particular identity within a defined time frame. When logs are standardized, search queries can operate across datasets without needing provider-specific adjustments. Beginners sometimes struggle with switching between log formats and adapting queries accordingly. Normalization eliminates this friction, allowing consistent queries to operate uniformly across environments. Efficient search capability directly improves response time during incidents. Cross-provider environments introduce additional normalization challenges because each provider uses distinct terminology and event categories. While identical formatting may not always be possible, aligning key investigative fields such as identity, resource, action type, and timestamp enables meaningful comparison. Investigation questions that span providers, such as tracing suspicious activity moving from one cloud to another, require this alignment. Beginners should recognize that normalization is about achieving investigative equivalence rather than technical sameness. The objective is ensuring that essential attributes are comparable regardless of origin. Retention and normalization interact closely because long-term correlation depends on consistent formatting over time. If log schemas change without corresponding normalization updates, historical comparisons may become unreliable. Investigation questions involving older events may fail due to schema drift. Beginners should appreciate that normalization processes require maintenance as environments evolve. Continuous validation ensures that logs remain aligned and usable even as services introduce new fields or event types. Security monitoring systems often depend heavily on normalized logs to generate alerts and insights. Investigation questions triggered by alerts require consistent data inputs to avoid confusion. If normalization is incomplete, alerts may misinterpret fields or overlook relevant events. Beginners should view normalization as foundational to reliable monitoring rather than an optional enhancement. Accurate detection depends on structured, consistent data streams. Ultimately, normalizing logs for correlation enables patterns to emerge across accounts and regions that would otherwise remain hidden in fragmented datasets. By aligning fields, synchronizing timestamps, enriching context, and maintaining schema consistency, you create an investigative environment where meaningful relationships become visible. For new learners, the central lesson is that collecting logs is only the beginning. True visibility arises when logs are structured in ways that support correlation, comparison, and pattern recognition. In distributed cloud environments where activity spans boundaries, normalization is the bridge that connects isolated events into cohesive narratives. When done thoughtfully, it transforms scattered records into actionable intelligence that strengthens detection, response, and long-term security understanding.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.